Hi folks, welcome back to my channel, D versus Debt. This is D, and I'm about to kick off a series of videos based on a presentation that I just gave for the Tucson Planner Gals. So for their January 2020 meetup, we wanted to kick the year off on an inspirational note, kind of to motivate people, because that's usually the month where people are thinking about resolutions and all of that. So I talked about my debt-free journey, gave some budgeting tips, and so this is a follow-up to get more into detail about the way that I budget and how I attack my debt. So for myself, my first topic is me showing you how I break down my budget by paycheck. So instead of budgeting it out for an entire month, it makes more sense to me to break it down into my paychecks. So I get 2 paychecks every single month. I always get paid on the 6th and the 21st of every month. And the interesting thing about that is that almost all of my bills except for one are due during my second paycheck. So because of that, I split it up this way. For the first paycheck, I attack my debt, which is all I have left is my mortgage. And for the second paycheck, I pretty much try to cover everything else. So for now, these are kind of estimated numbers because I will be taking a hit in pay. So it might actually be lower than this. There was a scheduling faux pas. I teach at a community college, and because of that scheduling error, I'll be making less money this year. So again, these are just kind of estimates. Once I know for sure when school gets underway what my real numbers are, I'll be able to be more precise with it. So for my first paycheck, the one that lands on the 6th, the first thing I do is pay my mortgage. Now I'm already a month ahead. That just makes me feel safer in case something were to happen. I have at least 1 month already paid for. If $530 seems really small for a mortgage, it is. It's only a $70,000 mortgage, plus when I refinanced last year, I asked to pay for the insurance and all of that stuff, the taxes, all of that on my own instead of rolling that into my mortgage payment. So my mortgage payment really is just my mortgage interest and my mortgage principal. Everything else I pay myself, which leads into this, my sinking funds. That's where that money comes from. So if you don't know the Dave Ramsey method or what sinking funds are, basically it's where you set aside a certain amount of money each paycheck or each month to prepare yourself for an upcoming expense, an irregular expense that's not happening all the time. So for me, my taxes, my property taxes, I pay twice a year. My car tags, I pay once a year. My flood insurance, homeowners insurance, and my car insurance, I also pay once a year. And the reason for that is to save money. But what I do is I break it down to how much it is overall, divide it by the 12 months, and then divide that by 2 because I get 2 paychecks per month. And so that works out to $100 a paycheck that I have to set aside for those expenses coming up. So the next one that's coming up, I just finished paying all of my insurances. My tags were taken care of in November. So the next one coming up is my first round of property taxes. That's going to be in March. So for every paycheck from here until March, this will be building up until then. And then once the bill comes due, I'll pretty much almost deplete my sinking fund and then keep building throughout the rest of the year to pay the next set of items as they come up. I also set aside $50 every paycheck to my emergency fund to pad it and make it grow as much as I can. You are supposed to have at least $1,000 of an emergency fund according to Dave Ramsey. That depends on each individual, really, the size of your family, your circumstances, things like that. For myself in December, I actually had to dip into my emergency fund for the first time in a very, very long time. I got hit with a $700 car bill, and so I had to dip into what I had saved in there. So I'm trying to build this back up. So $50 every paycheck goes towards the emergency fund. Then I also have another travel fund. This is basically another sinking fund. I set aside $100 a paycheck to have money to travel during the year. When I first started my debt-free journey, I didn't do any traveling for years and years and years. And it makes a difference not to be able to have fun and travel and stuff. So now that I'm just working on my mortgage, that's the last of my debts, now I try to have at least a couple of trips a year. So I'm setting aside $100 per paycheck for that. After that, I take out $360 in cash and divide it up into my cash envelopes. So the biggest ones are my food and pet envelopes, so $100 for each of those. This helps me keep my spending under control for food because this tends to be my hardest category. I love to overspend on food. I love to eat. Pets, if there is leftover money in other categories, it goes into here because I try to, do the best I can for my pets, get good quality food, things like that. So I could spend less than $100, but I'm trying to get the best food and supplements and things like that for my pets that I can. I've figured out that per pay period, I spend $60 in gas to get to and from work, so that's how much goes into there. For each pay period, I take out $40 for home. And that's basically for like toilet paper, cleaning supplies, hairspray, stuff like that. And then I do $20 in gifts. So this is basically like a gift or a donate fund. So if someone's birthday comes up, I have a little stash of 20s saved away that I can dip into. Or if I want to make a donation to a club or a group, things like that, I can take it from here. So I let this envelope build. From there, I take an additional $360 and apply it towards my principal only. So again, I like to be 1 month ahead on my mortgage, but the rest of my money, I want to make sure that it's applied just to my principal. And what that does is it lowers the amount in interest that I pay the following month. Your interest is calculated every single month, so the more you pay towards principal, the less that you pay in interest. So my goal for this year for each month is to put at least $880 towards my principal. Last year I did a lot of side hustles. I did a lot of extra work, and I was able to pay off $25,000 of my mortgage. It was a lot of work. It also involved a lot of luck. So I had money back from a lot of amended tax returns for 3 years worth of amended tax returns. Plus I got a refund for last year's taxes, had insurance money that came back, things like that. So I was able to put all of that money towards my mortgage. And so I shrunk my mortgage last year. I started at $70,000 and in December I finished at $45,000. That meant I was paying way more than $880 a month. So this year I'm going to scale it back again because I'm taking a cut in pay. I'm going to scale it back to a goal of trying to pay at least $16,000 this year because that would put me at $29,000. And the thought of being in the 20-somethings and how much I owe on my mortgage is really exciting. So this is how much I have to do per month to get there. Okay, so that wraps up paycheck number 1, and that puts me at $0. I am a zero-based budgeter, so I like to wipe out everything. A paycheck comes in, I give every money its job, put it where it's supposed to go, and deplete my account to 0. If it sounds terrifying, it is in the beginning, but then after you do it a while, it's actually exhilarating because you're like, wow, I did it. Everything has a job. I know exactly where every dollar went. And technically, you don't have $0 in the account. You do have that emergency fund that's, hiding out there in the background. Again, don't touch it until you have an actual emergency, but don't panic at that 0 because there is money there. It's just set aside for an emergency. Okay, so then paycheck number 2 rolls around on the 21st, and that's where all my bills come due. So again, let's say I get $1,500 for paycheck number 2. These first 3 bills are always the same. My phone bill is always $65, sewer and garbage is always $68, internet is always $65. These are kind of iffy, they go up or down a little bit. So on average, I spend about $35 for my water bill. My electricity ranges anywhere from usually like $40 to like, 60-ish, around there. So I kind of average it out to about 50. So I round it to about $300, and usually you have a few bucks left here and there. Once I pay those, literally as soon as my direct deposit hits at 7 o'clock in the morning, by 7:05, all of these are paid. I don't wait until the day that they're due. So like, let's say this is due the 24th, this is due the 21st, this is due the 28th. I pay all of my bills on the day of my paycheck, on the 21st, because that way I know exactly how much I have left to attack everything else. So as soon as those are paid, then the next thing I do is transfer $100 into my sinking fund, again to prepare myself for my upcoming taxes, tags, and insurance bills. And then I put $50 more towards my emergency fund, again, because you're always trying to grow that and keep it, nice and padded. Then I put $100 towards my travel fund to get ready to spend when a travel opportunity comes up. And the nice thing about this travel fund, if you noticed over here, my fun category works out to only $20 a week. And you might be like, wow, don't you feel deprived? That's crazy. But I can stretch $20 pretty far. I can get pretty creative with that. And I would much rather travel and do stuff than to buy a bunch of junk, basically, for my fun money. So somewhere I saw a quote that said, collect memories, not things. In other words, have experiences instead of just hoarding a bunch of stuff. So that's why I would much rather put more money towards travel fund and less money towards that category. So once that's transferred into that account, then I take out my $360 cash from my cash envelopes, and again, this is the amounts that it works out to. And that leaves me with $520 to throw towards my principal, because remember, I'm trying to hit that $880 goal. So to hit that, for this particular check, I would have to put in that much. I could put in more if I wanted to. This leaves me a pocket of approximately between $50 and $100 after I've paid everything. So for this, I can withdraw it and set it aside, put it in an envelope for an unexpected expense. Or for something that comes up, or I can just throw it towards my principal. Now, on top of these things, if I want to buy myself some fun stuff, if I want to have a special event coming up, things like that I know I want to spend a little bit more money on, then that's where my side hustles come in. So these are my guaranteed paychecks, but on top of that, I work a lot of different side hustles to bring in extra money. So usually, even though I have $0 here and give or take $100 here, if I want to have a couple of extra $100 to spend or do something fun or whatever it is, then I'll let's say sell a purse or house sit and pet sit someone's house, things like that. So that helps me bring in a little bit of extra cash. But anyways, this is how my paychecks break down. I hope that makes sense to you. Again, I try to knock it down to as close to $0 as I can, and then set the rest aside, either for an emergency or throw it towards my principal, whatever it is. For example, right now school's about to start next week. I'll probably need to buy a little bit of clothes for school. I only buy clothes, at the beginning of the semester usually, and I do need some more pants. So the extra money that I have here after these payments, I would probably use towards buying a little bit of work or school clothes. Anyways, please let me know if you have any questions. I try to be, pretty brief, but if parts of this doesn't make sense to you, please let me know and I'll try to do a better job of explaining to you. And again, I will be releasing a few more videos very soon based on that particular presentation that I just gave to the Tucson Planner Gals. Anyways, thank you for watching, and I hope you enjoyed.